This is October 30th, 1985. Grandpa, what is your full name?
Thomas Dunn, D-U-N-N, Green.
And does it have any special meaning? How did they choose your name?
My grandfather's name was Thomas Dunn.
What is your birth date?
November 28th, 1888.
So you're going to be 97? Coming up soon? Young boy, huh?
Just a kid.
Where were you born?
New York City.
Were you born at home?
Oh, everybody was born at home.
Was anything unusual about your birth?
Well, it was on Thanksgiving Day. I was the seventh child. I had 4 brothers and 4 sisters. And they were all eating Thanksgiving dinner. And the nurse, I guess it must have been a midwife, brought me in and said, "How is this for turkey?" So that was my introduction.
What were your parents' names?
John Charles Green.
And your mother?
Elizabeth Marietta Dunn.
And where were they born? Where were they born?
All New York City.
All New York City. What was your mother's maiden name?
Dunn.
And what kind of work did your father do?
Well, he was an arnold constable. You call him a store manager, like Marshall Field.
And you had 7 brothers and sisters?
Oh, 4 brothers and 4 sisters.
Oh, and what were their names, and where were you in the middle?
Well, Gertrude and Lila. I never met them. They died of diphtheria. I don't know what year it was. There were 8,000 children died in New York that year of diphtheria. Then there was Mary, Joe, John, and Patrick. He died of croup. What is that?
It's a bad cough.
And then I came along, and Bessie and Jim were twins.
So you had twins, and you had twins brothers, and brother and sister twins.
4 brothers and 4 sisters.
I think I have a picture of your sister Mary here.
Yeah.
Let's show that. You have a lot of stories to tell about Mary.
Well, she was the most beautiful, most brilliant girl I ever knew.
And then how did your family spend time together when you were a boy?
Well, we weren't killing each other.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have any radio, no television. We spent a lot of time playing on the piano, and then we'd all get around and sing the popular songs in the living room.
What is the very first thing that you remember, as far back as you can remember?
What's the what?
What is the first memory that you have, as far back as you can go?
My first memory?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know whether it's the first, but it's the most outstanding. When we went from the 19th century into the 20th, that was the first time they had midnight mass. Not sure whether it was Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. Now, New York City, there was no automobiles. On every corner they had a little light, the gas light.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of flickered. So my father, I was altar boy. And my father said he'd meet me after Mass and we'd walk home together. And when I got home, when I got outside, everybody disappeared. And I ran from 96th Street to 104th and broke all world records. I've told that to the kids many times.
So you always lived in New York as a boy?
until 1926.
Where did you live in New York?
Well, I guess what we call Harlem, 104th Street and Broadway.
What do you remember about the house you lived in?
I don't remember too much. It was a house. I think it was made of clapboard, wooden house. And then in the later years, we moved into a flat, as they called it, an apartment with steam heat. I thought we were rich. No more fighters, no more. And we didn't have gas. In the kitchen, you had a big range that you cooked on summer and winter. Imagine what that was in the summer. Oh, and we had oil lamps all over the house before we had gas. I remember as a kid on Saturday morning, it was my job to level the wicks off, you know, so the light would burn. And then we had a gallon can. We'd go to the hardware store and get it refilled with the kerosene oil.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep. I don't know, but go ahead. I'm okay. I had a nap this morning.
Do you remember how much things cost when you were a boy?
I remember eggs were 10 cents a dozen. This is one thing that stands out. They raised them to a penny apiece, and my grandmother was going to raise little Harry.
What was your grandmother's name?
And round steak was 16 cents, and sirloin was 18 cents.
Did your grandmother live near you?
She lived with us all our lives. My mother was an only child, and
So that was your mother's mother.
Yeah.
And what was her name?
Mary John.
Mary. Did you have toys?
Toys.
Mm-hmm.
Had a hobby horse. Oh yeah, we had the. We all had fire engines, little iron fire engines with horses, and we always wore hip boots up to here, rubber boots. Then we'd fold them down when the snow wasn't too deep.
What did you and your family have for transportation?
What?
What did you have for transportation?
Horse cars
Did you have your own?
on Amsterdam Avenue. You had two horses pulled this little car with about 20 and 25 people in it. And every 2 or 3 miles they'd put in a new team of horses. Then next was a cable car, and a trolley car with the overhead, and then the bus. Now the elevated lines, they have little locomotives, much bigger than this. And they were sold to Chicago, and the last I heard of them, they were being used. There's a tunnel under Chicago, you know. Do you know that?
Mm-hmm.
It supplies all the department stores with their merchandise. But they can't be running this long.
What kind of songs and dances were popular that you remember as a boy?
Oh, do I remember them? I have some records in there. East side, west side, all around the town. The Tots play Ring Around Rosie. London Bridge is falling down. Boys and girls together. Me and Peggy O'Rourke. We did the Light Fantastic on the sidewalks of New York. You know what the Light Fantastic is? You take the girl's hand and you dance around. And
Sounds like fun.
Another one is Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer, do.
Can you sing one for us? Give us a little song. Sing it. Can you sing the melody?
Could I sing it?
Yeah.
I'm afraid my voice, I'll try it. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due. I'm half crazy over the likes of you. It will be a stylish marriage. We can't afford a carriage. But you look neat upon the seat of a bicycle built for two.
Very
Beautiful.
Now, another one I got in there. Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you. Let me hear you whisper that you love me too. Keep the love light shining in your eyes so blue. Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you. Oh boy.
What?
They'll probably get the hooking.
It's the tomatoes and the fruit. What kind of clothing did you wear when you were a boy? Didn't wear blue jeans.
Oh no. No, you didn't wear long pants until you were 16.
Short pants. Wasn't that cold in the winter?
Oh no, we wore woolen stockings came all the way up here, and then we had a rubber band we'd put around so they wouldn't slip down. And we always had sweaters, and then they had a, what do you call that thing in there with the collar? They make sweaters now with the,
A turtleneck?
huh?
A turtleneck?
Yeah. And we always had hats that went over our ears. And woolen, we wore mittens, not gloves. But to keep your hands warm by that.
How did you celebrate special holidays like Thanksgiving or Christmas? Did you have special menus or any special family
Oh, yes,
traditions?
yes, yes. When we bought a turkey, you got the feathers and all, the head and the feet. That's the way they sold them. And my grandmother cut the head and the feet off, and then we had to pluck the feathers out. And then there were little pin feathers. You had to take a knife and squeeze them out. And we always had plum pudding for dessert. And they used suet, and that's...
How about Christmas?
Christmas, we always had a Christmas tree. And we had real candles on. And we didn't have the thing, and we all went to bed early, and we get up early in the morning and find our presents. And after Christmas dinner, we would light the candles and always have a couple of pails of water handy in case it caught on fire. And my father couldn't play the piano. My mother was could play the piano beautifully. My father would go like this, and he always played "Come On You Faithful." And we'd sing that song, and then we'd blow the candles out. And we never used the we never used the parlor, only when we had company. Those are things you were sitting on.
The old chairs that we have, was that from your family then? How did you meet Nana?
Oh, that monkey. I was a happy bachelor. She pulled the rug right from under me. Now, it's a long story. But she came to work for our company in 1916, I think. And she worked in the billing department. That's where the ordinary people worked.
What company was that?
Union Tank Car. And I was on the 14th floor in the transportation. I was a big shot, see. We looked down on these people in the billing department. So we used to drink spring water that came in 5-gallon bottles, I guess. I put it so we could drink it. And this particular, we had the paper cups. And I had one cup and I started to fill another. And a little squeaky voice in back of me said, "Why don't you leave some for the fish?" Here's this little 5'2" telling me not to drink all the water. Well, that's how it started.
What do you remember the most about your courtship?
Well, when you go fishing, you gotta fish, you hook 'em. Well, I swallowed the hook, the line, and the sinker.
Where did you go out when you went out?
Well, every Sunday we went to, we were with a group in the office, different friends, and we'd go to Coney Island. And you know the shoeboxes? The girls would make lunch, ham sandwich, roast meat, or corned beef, and fruit. Always a couple of hard-boiled eggs. I don't know why they always had those in there. So we'd eat the lunch the girls brought, and we'd break up in twos and maybe more, and go up to Henderson's and have dinner. And they had a dance floor there, and then they had they didn't call it burlesque. Well, these girls and entertainers, they were just like frogs with heads on. They sang a little song and danced. Every little frog went honk, honk, honk. However they go. And after that, we'd maybe walk up 2 miles to Brighton Beach and go to Brighton Beach Music Hall. That was the Waterville. Or we might go home. And we didn't have automobiles. It took me 3 trolley cars to get from Coney Island to where Martha lived. And then after that, it took me 14 miles in the subway to get home where I lived.
Here's a picture of her when she was young. When did you, what year did you meet Nana? Do you remember?
I think it was 1916.
And then when did you marry?
She came to work in the office. And I went in service in 1917. And I was discharged in 1919. In 1920, I popped a question, and I said, and she said yes, and I said, damn it. So that was 1920, and the following June we were married. But I couldn't get married before that. I didn't have any money.
So money was important to have before you got married.
I want to have money enough to buy some furniture.
Where did you get married?
In Brooklyn, St. Rose of Lima Parish. Oh.
What was the date?
Huh?
What was the date?
June 5th, 1921. And in February 21, we started buying furniture. And I believe in February, that's when the furniture goes on sale. They didn't have the furniture stores like they have now. They were like Macy's, and they sold everything. So we finally, on Saturday afternoon, we'd go to the different department stores, and I'd follow her around like a little puppy. And we'd go to look at furniture, and she'd look at blouses and waists or something else. Drove me nuts. Now we, well, anyhow, we bought the furniture in February, and they held it until June. How about Ronald Reagan? You want me to fix up a date?
Okay, you can start, Grandpa.
Well, anyhow, they were going to charge me storage. So we had the furniture moved to Nellie's apartment. She had a house in Flatbush. That was Martha's sister. And then we found an apartment. That's where Catherine was born. And that was in 24. No, it was in 2022. And when in 1924, I bought a house, a duplex. You know what a duplex is?
Mm-hmm.
Red brick, nice house, parquet floor, $9,250
Where was this? Where was it?
in Flatbush. And that was in 24, and in 26 we moved out here.
On your wedding, did you go anywhere after your wedding for a honeymoon?
We went to Atlantic City
And how did you get there?
on a train. We didn't have automobiles then.
Here is a picture of their wedding picture. And your best man was your brother,
My brother John,
and the maid of honor was,
Lou Goss, G-O-S-S.
and that was Nana's sister? Or no, that was a friend?
No, she just worked in the office.
Uh-huh. And then that's Nana's brother is the other
John,
person.
yeah.
Okay.
He died about 2 years ago.
What is your strongest memory from the wedding?
From what?
From the wedding. What do you remember the most about your wedding? The day of your wedding.
It was so fast. We didn't have to have a mass then. It was, well, first of all, it was going to be on Saturday. And Martha's sister Sarah was married to Gladden James. He was a movie actor, and he had to work that Saturday. So we had it on Sunday afternoon, and in 10 minutes we were in and out. Oh, that's the way to do it.
Do you have a favorite story about Nana?
Well, I came home, was a little grouchy, and maybe said something I shouldn't say. All she would say was, "Don't get Bucky. Don't get Bucky." And that would end the argument. So every time it's, oh yeah, one. I lived at 157th Street. I used to walk down to 145th Street to La Petite Paris. That was a restaurant and candy store. And buy this French candy that cost twice as much as the better candy, Islands. And after I was married, I learned that she didn't like it. It was too rich. And her sister Sarah ate all the candy. So there was a lot of, we used to go to Tappan's out at Sheepshead Bay. And, we went in an automobile, and Glenn had a car, an old Ford. And we'd get a lobster, half a chicken, corn on the cob, all the mussels you could eat. They're like clams, you know. And $2.50. After that, that Hazel and they'd go, and Ellie and Al, the four girls and their husbands, No. Once I swallowed that hook, line, and sinker.
You said you were in the military. Where were you, in the Army or?
Well, in 1908, I joined the 1st Regiment of Field Artillery. That's horse-drawn, you know. And we went on maneuvers every summer. And we had an artillery range at Peekskill and one at Tobyhanna, Pennsylvania. And we had pretty good training. But incidentally, when the First World War came along, our standing army amounted to 25,000 men. And that's how you may not believe that. But the states all had militia. And they were 250,000, and we were militia. And we were militia. We couldn't be sent out of the state. Let me get this straight. 1912. Well, I think it was just about February 1912, we were federalized. That meant we could be sent any place. See, they must have anticipated the trouble. And let's say 1908, 1913. So in 1917, I was drafted, and I was sent to Fort Slocum, New York. That was Coast Artillery. But I was classified as a replacement overseas with a field artillery outfit. Well, there was nobody with previous experience, very few, and I ended up as a drill sergeant training these fellows, the rookies. And trying to think. Well, then I was going to be transferred to the Coast Artillery. In the meantime, Major General Goethals, who built the Panama Canal, he was chief of ordnance in Washington. I didn't know anything about this. And he got in touch with our company and he said, well, he didn't. Somebody in his office said, we've just purchased 1,000 tank cars to haul liquefied chemicals used in the manufacture of munitions. And we don't know how to monitor, what to do with them. So whoever it was, he talked to in the office. He said, well, there's a guy named Green at Fort Slocum. And Saturday morning, they told me to report headquarters with my equipment, and I thought I was going overseas. And when I got down there, I see this report to Major General Goethel's Munitions Building, Washington, D.C. Well, I got down to Washington. It was dark. It was, oh yeah. No, I got on a tugboat. I could have gone to the mainland taking the train, but they put me on a tugboat and went all down through the Sound, East River, around the tip of Manhattan, up the Hudson River to Jersey City. I got there about 10 or 11 o'clock. The train didn't leave till 2. So believe it or not, before the First World War, we worked till 3 o'clock on Saturday, everybody. And I called the office up to tell them I was headed to Washington and overseas. I talked to McPherson, my boss, and he said, oh yeah, they called up. They didn't think too much about it. So Miss Cunningham, she was had the switchboard, and nobody's allowed to have any outside calls. So she knew I was dating Martha, and she said, do you want to talk to her? And I said, yeah, of course. And I told Martha I was on my way to Washington. She said, oh, I have an aunt lives down there. But she didn't know where her aunt lived. But she gave me her uncle's name, Robert Bell, and she said, look him up in the telephone book. They're good for a good meal. They're good cooks. Well, to make a long story short, I stayed with Aunt Jessie for the 2 years I was in Washington. But in 1888, the Statue of Liberty and the Brooklyn Bridge were 4 years old. They beat me by 4 years. I've been over Brooklyn Bridge many times. I've seen the Statue of Liberty I don't know how many times.
Have you ever met anybody famous?
Huh?
Have you ever met anyone famous?
No, but I saw Woodrow Wilson at least a half a dozen times. At that time, he'd go down Pennsylvania Avenue in a horse and carriage, a team of horses, and they didn't have all the. I think they just had the local police mounted cops riding with him. Well, let's see. I met. That was Cardinal Hayes one time. Well, I was an altar boy. We shook hands.
What major inventions have been developed in your lifetime? What kind of inventions have you seen developed in your lifetime?
The automobile, the airplane, well, the trolley car, the bus.
Radio, television,
and
telephone. You saw it all, didn't you?
No telephone.
But you saw the telephones come out.
Yeah, sure. There's no telephone.
What did you think when you started seeing people going up into space?
See what?
When you started to see people go up into space, did you ever think that something like that would happen?
Never. I was only thinking today. They had something went up today. When they first come down, you remember they landed in the water?
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall that?
Yeah.
Now they can land at Edwards Air Base in Washington.
The space shuttle.
Huh?
The space shuttle.
And it's just as easy as going down to the loop.
What's the one time in your life that you would like to live over again?
No, I had such a wonderful life, my family, my brothers and sisters. And then my courtship with Martha. And each one of the children, Catherine and... No,
You wouldn't want to go through it again.
I think I would.
You wouldn't do anything differently, though.
No.
What are some of the best books you ever read?
The best what?
The best books you ever read.
Books. The Black Beauty. That was about a horse, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And beautiful Joe has a dog, and I cried. I forget the story. Oh no, the last of the Mohegans. I love the Longfellow's poems. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There's one poem, into each life some rain must fall. Some days must be cold and dark and dreary. It rains, but the wind is never weary. The wind, they call it, is never weary. But behind the cloud, the sun's still shining. That's one poem.
That's beautiful.
And then what was about the headless horseman? Do you remember that? Ichabod Crane and Sam go by.
What is one of your favorite sayings?
Sayings?
Mm-hmm.
God bless America.
What do you value most in a friend?
Friend,
Yeah, what do you value most about a friendship?
from a friend, honesty.
Honesty?
I'd tell you, tell me the truth, even if it hurt. But don't lie.
What values or religious beliefs do you hold dear to you?
What?
What values or religious beliefs do you hold dear to yourself?
Well, you say it every Sunday, I believe in the Catholic Church. Unity of the saints, forgiveness of sin, resurrection of the body, life everlasting. Oh, I think one day I'll meet my mother and father. But I think Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. I used to know that by heart. 20 years ago, what was it?
Mm-hmm. 7 years ago.
You know that?
I used to know it. I don't remember.
No. I think that was one of the most outstanding. But the more I see of Reagan, and the way he's handled these different situations, I think he may go down as our greatest president. The way he's handling this situation with Russia. So he laid down the line here not long ago. He said, if we go to war, neither one of us will win.
That's right.
And that's pretty plain talk.
Happenings in the world affected your life the most?
Well, when my father died, I thought the bottom of the world was falling out because we were very close.
When did your father die?
1910,
And when did your mother die?
35.
This is a picture of your mother. And her name again was?
Elizabeth Marietta.
What is your best advice for your grandchildren? And you have a lot of them. What is your best advice you could give to your grandchildren?
Play the game straight.
Could you tell us what your children's names were and when they were born?
My kids?
Yep.
I got stuck for a birthday present. How can I forget it? Yeah, Catherine was March 23rd, 22. John was October 5th, 24. Martha Jane was February 20th. Oh, I don't remember the year, but 28. It was after we moved out here. Then Tommy and Helene were born February 22nd, George Washington's birthday, 35.
Did you choose any of their names because of somebody else? Were they family names, or?
I don't know where we got the name Helene. Well, Martha was, and Catherine was, oh yes, Catherine was after Martha's little sister. They were building a church and they had this big pile of lumber. And like little kids, 5 or 6 years old, she was she was crushed to death. And we named Catherine after Catherine. And John was after my father. Martha Jane was after mother. And Tom was after me. And Helene, I don't know where she got that name.
How many grandchildren do you have now?
26.
And how many great-grandchildren?
44.
And how many great-great-grandchildren? 4 great-great-grandchildren already.
That's why I'm on relief.
What do you remember about Tom and his family when they were little? My Tom, my husband. My Tom, my husband. I understand you used to make oatmeal for them in the morning all the time when you used to go there.
Cream of wheat.
Cream of wheat.
I couldn't understand how you could make it without the lumps. But you take it and sprinkle it, see. Yeah, they called me up one time, wondering how I did it. Well, the place they lived in several places. And then they lived in an apartment on Michigan Avenue, and it was formerly a lovely apartment house, and they built the front of Walgan had a store there. You know this girl and fella that come, friends of Martha Jane's, I think
Nydia and Mumshala?
Huh?
Nydia and Mumshala?
Yeah, they lived on the floor. It was a lovely apartment, but it was full of cockroaches and mice.
But it was a lovely apartment.
I mean, big rooms. And, well, anyhow, John, my oldest son, heard about, he was living in Lombard then, and over on Hammersmith Road, I think. Mm-hmm. Is there such a place?
I think so.
And he heard about these, there was 30 acres where East 15th Street is. But they had those 3 houses were what they call them, model homes.
Mm-hmm.
So John heard about it. It was $15,000 for a house. That included the range, washer and dryer. What else? Icebox. I think all utilities. $15,000. And your house is 1 foot longer than any of the others because somebody made a mistake. Well, anyhow, I was in New York at the time, and I wrote to the LaSalle Bank. I'd been doing business with them, and I told them Skip at the end of all he needed was $1,000, he said. And the fellow in the bank said, oh no, you'll need more than that because it costs money to clear the title and all that. So I think he gave him $2,000, but Skip transferred that to a veterans loan. So that's how you got that place. and up at the end of 14th Street. What's that mean?
Main Street?
No,
Or Highland?
Highland Avenue. The kids used to stand there in the rain waiting for the bus to come. That's when they went to Sacred Heart. No, there was the one. It reminds me of the Waltons. You ever look at the Waltons?
Sure.
I watch them every day. They're wonderful.
Since this is a Christmas present for Tom, do you have anything special to say to Tom?
No. Well, he was damn lucky getting you. No, he's a good boy, isn't he?
Before, when we were talking, we never talked about how you ever moved from New York over here.
What?
How you ever moved from New York to this area.
Oh, well, the company came out here in 1926.
That's Union Tank?
And they moved in, September was their target date. But I came out in June, they hired the help and took care of everything. And Martha came out in July. Where was that place we stayed at, Captain? When we first moved out, up on Rogers Avenue.
I can't remember. Sheridan Beach.
What'd you say?
Sheridan Beach?
Sheridan Beach?
Huh?
Sheridan
Yeah.
Beach?
She's the one that's got the memory. Well, that place, before I went there, they showed me this apartment. It was just temporary until our furniture came out. After we got in there, that was full of cockroaches. But they're cute little things.
Oh,
As long as you don't turn the light out. As soon as you turn the light out, then they come all over the place. Then when Captain, she knows several boys. Bob Wareheim, he had his foot in the door before, right at the start. So Bob was really a really nice fellow. But to tell you what she did, they got married, what was it, June, Catherine? 3 months after they were married, he was up in the Aleutian Islands with the Seabees. He was gone for about 3 years. Then he came back and he was at a camp in Oregon near California for 6 months. And I put her on the train to go out there all by herself. I thought I'd never see her again. So then Bob was transferred to the South Pacific. How long was he in service? 4 years? No, he was a wonderful guy.
When did you move on Arthur? Was that your first place over here after?
No, we lived on Newgard Avenue, 6450. We only stayed there a year because I wanted to put a chain on the door, and there were 2 daughters. This one daughter, oh no, you had ruined a beautiful oak door or something. And Martha was scared out of her wits anyhow. That was during Prohibition. They were shooting one another, you know. So then we moved to to Arthur Avenue, but down further near the lake. And then those people, they complained because John was so active. So then we moved to Dorsey's on North Shore Avenue. That's where the twins were born.
They were born at home?
Oh no, my kids were all born in the hospital except Catherine. But prior to that time, you know, every president of the United States was born at home. According to an article I read in the Reader's Digest one time. Well, anyhow,
what was the address on Arthur? When you moved to Arthur, what was that address?
What about it?
What was the address?
1934. Well, that had its good places, bad. Agnes shooting. It was a very strange place. She'd turn the heat on over again, nice and warm. Then when she'd leave about 9 o'clock, the temperature go down. There was an old furnace, and I go down and look at the water gauge. I could see the water was see, we had hot water instead of steam. And there was a big difference. So I confronted her. I said, that's no way to do things. So she brought this steam fitter or somebody in, and he said, well, if they don't use the radiator on her front porch in the living room, but he was only giving her an out. He knew damn well what she was doing, see. So I told her then, I said, you play with this thing more, I'm going to walk out. That's when I should have gone. It was a nice apartment, but then she died, and where she... Martha worried more about her than she would her own sister.
Is there anything in your life that I didn't ask you about that you feel is important, that you want to tell other people?
Well, there's so much. I want to tell you about all the girls I used to know. No, I didn't have too many girls. I was too busy with the field artillery, then I was going to night school. And my brother John had a camp, and he had a Rondikes for boys. I helped him a lot with that. Well, Mary had a PhD. She was really brilliant. And John had a master's. But when he graduated from college, he was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for the highest mark in descriptive geometry. At that time, it was a higher mathematics. And he taught math and he taught mechanical drawing. And he eventually was principal of Manual Training High School in Brooklyn.
Well, thank you very much, Grandpa.
Good.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. I remember what you...
No. Go ahead. Remember what? What did it, remember what?
I don't know what I was going to say.
For me.
Jingle bells!
All right, sing Jingle Bells.
Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle